All right, what's up, y'all? It's Will here with Schedulefly, and this is a phone podcast. I'm speaking with Johanna Yorke today. She's up in Syracuse, and she's got a really cool story. She's been at this game for a while, and she's got two restaurants, Alto Cinco and Otro Cinco. Um, Alto Cinco was just a takeout place back in '95, and then they were able to get into a dining room in '99, and they've grown since then, moved locations in 2014 and opened Otro Cinco in 2013. And so it's just been, incremental, ongoing, steady growth and success, and lots of stories, I'm sure, from Johanna and her team. So, Johanna, thanks a ton for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
So, well, man, okay, so you've been basically in the business for almost 25 years now, probably prior to that, I'm sure. But what prompted you to start Alto Cinco in '95, just as a takeout place there?
I had graduated from college a few years before that, and I started working in some restaurants, and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't really what I planned on doing. My undergrad degree was in anthropology, but through some restaurant gigs, I realized I really liked it. So I had visited my brother who was living in Manhattan, and we went to a couple kind of cool little takeout Mexican restaurants, and I fell in love with that kind of food. Um, it felt really healthy and kind of hearty and like nourishing.
Mm.
And from the to go aspect, I really liked that we could get food to go and feel good after we ate it, which for me was a little bit different from normally eating like pizza or Chinese, which are both great, but I don't know, I didn't feel too great after I would eat like that. So
Yeah.
something about some of those little takeout dishes I tried just really appealed to me. So shortly after, I spent a little time in Miami. Um, I was living with my sister, and I started experimenting more with some different ingredients and trying to cook some of that food more myself. And when I came back to Syracuse, I saw this little spot for rent. I was cooking at another restaurant in Syracuse, and I saw this takeout place. And every day when I would come home, I would watch it. And I thought about it for probably like a year. I just kept staring at the space, and then one day there was a sign that it was up for rent, and it sort of came together. It was not that difficult because it was just a little takeout shop, and
What had been there
I
prior?
it was a pizza to go shop, and it was like within walking distance from where I was living, and um, with a lot of help from people. Like my dad found an old stove. Um, my brother lent me some money. I just sort of rigged it up, and within a couple months, I was open, and I had a pretty straightforward, simple menu. But I knew that there was something about it that felt really right to me, even though there was some, the chaos of getting a place together and trying to figure everything out. But just at the end of every day, I just sort of had this like cementing feeling that I was doing something right with myself. Like the wandering and what I was going to do was just over. So that was kind of cool for me. That was like a relief. So maybe it helped me to be able to take all the challenges of figuring out how to operate and be an employer. I was 28, and most people I knew then were getting married and having kids, which actually seemed even scarier to me. So I guess I just felt like I had something that um, I felt like I could continue to do. And I guess here I am still
Well,
doing it.
did you have entrepreneurial drive in you from a young age? Is that part of your
Yeah, yeah,
family?
I did. Yeah, my dad is an entrepreneur, and since I was a little kid, I was always setting up shop in my house, selling things or having little stores in the basement for wrapping Christmas presents and things like that. I was really into it, and um, I'm sure a lot of kids have these stories, but the easy bake oven and the whole thing. I was just like always wanted to make stuff. So that when I had the chance to finally do it myself, it really just felt natural because I had probably like 3 or 4 years working in restaurants before it, so I kind of knew the daily operation.
Had you been?
You know.
You mentioned that you had been cooking when you started.
Hmm.
Were
Yeah.
you had you worked in the front of the house too, or
No,
no?
not at all. No, absolutely not. I was only in the kitchen, and
Okay.
I was kind of terrified of that. It was easy to do the counter in my little takeout.
Yeah.
That was pretty easy. But when we moved into the other side, um, although it was super exciting, I was thrilled to have the chance because through the years of operating in the takeout, we would always point to the wall and say like, one day we're going to be able, the dream was like, we're going to break through the wall and we're going to get a frozen margarita machine, which we finally broke through the wall. I never got a frozen margarita machine, but we, that was always this direction everyone would point to because with a lot of luck and definitely hard work, we would start to have little lines out the door. So I knew it couldn't probably go like that forever because people wanted to sit down. Um, my dad helped me build these 2 counters, so we had a couple stools. And then when it was warm out, we put a table outside, and sure enough, people just wanted to hang out there. So when I finally opened into the bar, when we expanded in 2000, we had a small bar and 7 tables. And I had to kind of come out of the kitchen to do that and learn about wine and service. And it took me a while to kind of overcome my own shyness.
Mm.
I'm very, very shy at times, like painfully shy, but I can figure stuff out. It just sometimes it takes me a minute, but I had some really good help, and it took some years to kind of put a protocol together of how to do all the things. Like everyone figures it out, but it was a little difficult for me just because I didn't have that in my backdrop. I didn't have that training.
So so next door you had the 7 tables. What was there prior?
A frame studio.
Okay, so it left or
Hmm.
whatever, you got this, so you expand into there.
Hmm.
Um, well, did you? Well, then that's a big leap, right? So you've gone
Yeah.
from this takeout place and you're cooking, and now you've got to. I mean, engaging customers like that and learning the front of the house and learning the management and the systems and the interaction with customers and the meaning of hospitality is a
Yeah.
steep learning
Yeah.
curve.
Yeah. That was something that took me some practice because I think we all have a natural style of how we deal with um, people. And I had a style of learning how to deal with purveyors and employees, and certainly lots of customers over those 5 years leading up to that.
Yeah,
But I didn't know how to do tableside.
yeah.
I didn't know all that stuff. And a very, really good friend of mine named Kim came. She kind of dropped her life for a couple months, and she came and lived with me and helped set up the
Really,
yeah,
it's a
like the
hell of a
more
friend.
formal side. Yeah, yeah, she's a great person,
What's her
and
name?
she
Kim.
Kim, yep, Kim Christensen, and she helped me because she had some waitressing experience all through college and stuff. So she kind of came in and just set up shop with like a more formal, like, this is how you have to do this. This is how the silverware has to go. This is, she had all of that behind her. So she really helped us glue it together. And
Dang,
um,
that's awesome. Kim Christensen,
yeah,
you're
it
a
was,
badass. What a great friend. I
yeah,
mean, that's one of those
yeah,
things. It's like the little
yeah.
things sometimes that make the biggest difference. That's a huge lift for a
Game
grill.
changer.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
game changer. So I guess I started to mold after a few more of these trips to New York City and going out to different restaurants and learning how I liked to be served from a different style of when people were more down to earth but had the proper their own handset of speaking to you and how they could manipulate the table so that at the end of your experience you felt like you were waited on but not I don't know, not uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And
for
so I
sure. You need
tried
to have that personable
yeah,
approach, but still be professional, and
yeah.
find that balance so that, yeah, I got you, with you.
I definitely learned that from other people, watching how they did it.
What were some of the things that you saw maybe in New York that I mean, sometimes we learn from what we like, and sometimes we learn from what we don't like. I'm curious if you had
True.
some of those.
Yeah. So I think some of the formal touches of dining out, I love proper things, and I love all of the little accoutrements of dining out. I think trying to implement that into this sort of neighborhood, I would say kind of like we're like I always say like a little Mexican restaurant and a little bit of everything else. So trying to figure out what would work for our place and our people. We have a really eclectic neighborhood. It's full of all different kinds of people and university professors and their families, and just a lot of blue collar people. It's kind of an arty sort of community, so it's kind of like anything goes. In our area, it's called Westcott Nation, which is kind of funny, but if you ever take a trip and see it, it'll make sense. But working with people after a couple years and realizing the style of serving people that knew the difference between good service and setting it up to where, like I said, I guess people want to be comfortable, but they want to feel like they're being served properly. So it took a while because a lot of my staff, they're young and didn't have that. Some of them didn't have that exposure. So trying to bring that up a notch took lots and lots of training. And sometimes I would take a handful of people and we would go to New York City just because I wanted them to see the style of how you can do things properly, but it's not really formal feeling.
Yeah, that's kind of it's a bit of an art, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you went from when you went in next door in 2000, how much did you have to increase your staff size?
Geez, we probably doubled it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we slowly took a couple more years, but then we started opening or staying open later. So we would go from closing at 11 until 2. So then we had this late night crowd, and then we started having more bartenders.
Are you near? I don't know. I've never been to Syracuse, so I don't know the area. Are you near the university?
Yes.
Like walking distance, or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that how much of your customer base is from the university?
Boy, I'm gonna just throw out, I'd guess maybe 50%, maybe more.
What happens in the summertime?
Things slow down,
Yeah.
but it's not. We also have the bonus of putting all of extra tables outside, and then everyone likes to eat outside. So,
yeah. Okay.
We might lose out a little in the takeout area when people leave. So we do a tremendous delivery every night, and then when the students leave, that slows down. But then a lot of people like to come out and just sit outside.
Oh,
so we have like 8 tables outside.
You do delivery?
Yes.
Do you use an outside provider, or is that something y'all do, or?
We do it ourselves.
You do it yourselves? Okay.
Yeah, I never use those services. We just do it in-house. We have a number of vehicles that are logoed.
Yeah.
And I felt like the advertising on the vans does more for us. So it worked out.
Yeah, that's good. You can control the process too and the interaction with it.
Yeah.
And you've
Yeah.
got the personal connection with the customer who's not there,
Yeah,
but they
I
still.
like it better.
Yeah.
I haven't I've had some interviews with some of those services, but it's just too much. They take too much.
Yeah. Well, the challenge with stuff like that, it sounds great in concept, but at the end of the day, it's the question is, are they there to truly, is the primary objective of that business to benefit you and your customers, or is it to grow their business
Yeah.
so that they can get a good return for their investors? And I would argue that, in most of those cases, it's the latter. I mean,
Yeah, I
that's just.
agree.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not bashing that, but I am saying that when you're a heavily funded business and the objective is to go public or
Make money.
whatever,
Yeah.
your objective is to generate generate a profit and generate, or not a profit actually, but generate an investment return for your investors. It's not
Right.
necessarily how do we really help Johanna and her team um, become more successful at providing great hospitality, even though it's not there at the restaurant to their guests. And that's what you can do by sending
That's
your
what
own
we
team.
try to do. Yeah, for sure. We
Yeah.
try to make that better.
Yeah, I have a really, I mean, this is going to sound kind of funny coming from somebody who's a partner in a software business for restaurants, but yeah, we believe that there's a balance between having enough technology and things that kind of make things go a little smoother and save you time, which we think we do. But part of the reason we don't continue constantly to add to our technology is I think that the more technology you have and the more these things get all tied together and everything becomes this, this technology helps you, this technology helps you, you're spending all this money on technology, and the end of the day, the particularly for the independent restaurant, the human to human interaction that's the key.
Yep, I agree.
It's you can have
Yes.
a great social, like we were just talking about Brett Oliverio at Sup Dogs before we got on here, and they have there's two restaurants, they have like 30,000 Instagram followers, but I can tell you firsthand from experience from being at both of them that that's great. But what really matters is the people that are there. The interaction you have with the people,
Yeah.
in the
Yep.
atmosphere they create. That is what makes the difference, particularly with independent restaurants where people are so engaged with so much technology now that it's nice to go to somewhere where you can interact with people.
Yeah, I think when there's something personal, it's more lasting.
For sure.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're able to, people connect more with that. They connect more with people than they do with any kind of technology. So I think I love that y'all are doing that. So, okay, so then you went, and now when you say you doubled in staff, I know not an exact number, but I'm curious, roughly how much staff did you have when you had your takeout, and then what did you go to with the?
Yeah, we probably had somewhere like maybe like 14 people, and then, when we expanded, we probably went into like maybe, 25, 26 people or so.
Okay.
Now we have, I think, 67 people at Alto.
Yeah, and about the same at Ocho, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now that's
Little less at Ocho, little less, but yeah, pretty maybe like 50 something, 54
so
at
you've
Ocho.
got nearly 120 staff now. You went from
Yeah, yeah.
14 and shy and back of the house to now you're running two businesses and managing a lot of people. Which, by the way, that's another part. It's one thing you have to engage the guests and overcome that natural shyness to interact with them. But then I would think the same goes with in a different way, but with just effectively communicating with and getting a team on board with your vision. You've had to learn that as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've stopped learning it. It's just an everyday thing.
Yeah.
I've been really lucky to say that I've had staff that's been with me for over 20 years. So they also retain like kind of organically part of that culture that we all started and kind of grew together with. So it's not just, it's not just me that's witnessed all of this.
Yeah.
So I have some people that when I'm not around or they can, I hope, even through like osmosis, people can pick up or translate on like what we're really working for, which is, I think, just the trying to have a positive effect on feeding people and everything that it entails, like their safety, their feeling, their health, and fun. When people go out, they want to have some fun or be transported for an hour, and trying to do that, I'd say, is a little bit harder these days than it was, say 10 years ago, because of everyone's on their devices. And some people, pony up at the bar or their table with it. So it's hard to engage with that, but whatever, I don't know, that's how it is right now. But a lot of people, I bartended at my place for about 13 years, and the people I met and just sharing stories, also, again, because we're in a university town, there's people from all over the world that kind of come in and out of here, and just some of the just such cool stories, and sharing a bit of time with somebody from one side of the bar to the other has been a big part of my adult life, like just learning to listen to people.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. It has been a shift, and people are on their devices a lot, and they roll up and they're locked and loaded on that the whole time.
Yeah.
When they place their order. I wonder though if that's the pendulum went really far. I wonder if it won't start heading back in the other direction a little bit. I mean, I noticed
think it
myself
will.
just
I think
kind of
it
getting
will.
so.
Your brain is tired.
Yeah, it wears you out, and you just get tired of it sometimes. You just want, sometimes I just want to throw my phone in a drawer sometimes and just pretend it doesn't exist for a few hours and just talk to people.
I think you're right. A lot of people feel like that. I think you're right.
It's an interesting time because, like, my kids are 15, 12, and 10, and so they're the first generation.
Lifeline,
like,
right?
Yeah, like they don't even know what it was like without that stuff.
Yeah,
and it's going to be interesting to see what this generation does. Like, do they, by some, natural human predisposition, eventually feel the same? Or is it those of us that lived without it and now live with it that, crave more of what we got without it sometimes? I don't know. I'm fascinated by it, but I do feel like that, there's some instinct we have that we just want to, we want community and we want connection.
Yeah.
And there's really not many places. It's why I really believe so much that independent restaurants are such a big, valuable asset in their communities, because particularly independents, I say, because people want to connect with something that has a story. They want to connect with something that seems real and authentic, and that's there for the community, that has as you said, whether they pick it up through hearing you talk about it, or your staff, or is just osmosis, they sense that there's something true and authentic and real here. And by the way, you said the same thing that every great restaurant owner I interview says, which is, boy, I've been lucky to have people with me so long. And I always go, bullshit, it's not luck, it's humble. And I hear you, and that's the way to approach it. But they've been with you for 20 years because you're a genuine person, because you're caring and authentic, and they clearly, they look to you as somebody that they admire and respect. Nobody works for anybody for 20 years. Just, you didn't get lucky. You're doing a lot of things really well, clearly. So I just wanted to make sure to point that out. And I'm sure they would agree with that. But, one thing I wonder about, you mentioned, people that are on your team, having all the necessary ingredients for balance in life. And, I'm curious, one of the things I see now is a lot more focus in the hospitality space on mental health, and I see
Mhm.
more of a focus
Mhm.
on. There's a big movement for sobriety now,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm just
Yep.
curious if you're seeing that and what your thoughts
Yeah.
are.
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing to bring up. So I'm glad you did, because it's something that I feel like, um, particularly at this time, it's one of the biggest challenges um, I've been having lately is learning how to um, draw the line with behavior and
Yeah.
employees that you can, I mean, by this point, I can kind of see it from a mile away when
Mm.
it's going to go down. And it's usually this patternized, like some form of abusing some substance, and
Yeah.
then the chaos that ensues and the stories and the drama and the whole thing until you finally have to let the person go. And instead, I've been wondering, like, is there some approach that I can take as an employer to help it not end that way, and to become more engaged with, hey, this is what I see, but I can't control any of it. It's just I'm observing this, and I just want you to know that I know what's going on, and if you want help, we can help you. But it's very slippery to navigate that for me, because there are some people with their relationships with things that they don't want anybody to be a part of it, or to, oh,
Yeah.
boy, sorry, my dog.
No, that's all right. What kind of dog you
But
have?
I think a lab. But I
Oh.
think it's hard to sometimes just know when to tell a person that they have to maybe take some time away, um, as a preventative, or to say, your behavior is unacceptable. That's kind of the approach I have now. But it's hard. We actually, years ago, it was really tragically, we lost an employee
Mm.
um, through some kind of an addiction with pills. And I had a really hard time for a while, because I feel like I could have or should have done more. But he kept that pretty private. And then one day it just went too far, and the next day it was over. And going through something like that with the staff, it just is something you never forget. And I'm constantly thinking of ways to promote wellness and try to create a place where people feel comfortable to go to somebody or talk about it when they feel like something's getting out of control. And with whatever is going on in the world today, with all the substances and medications that people can get legally or illegally, it just seems like there's times where it's really out of hand. And I don't think it's just the restaurant industry anymore, because I think people always try to label off, like, oh, it's just the restaurants. But I mean, I've talked to people in other professional realms, and it seems pervasive now.
Well, I think it is.
Yeah.
And I think that it's had its history, certainly in the restaurant space. But the good thing is uh, there's a lot of momentum and a lot of leadership with that topic now in the hospitality world. Have you heard of
Yeah.
Ben's Friends?
No.
Check it out, Ben's
Oh,
Friends.
okay. Okay.
Okay. So there's two gentlemen down in Charleston, South Carolina. Steve Palmer is one, and I cannot remember the other guy's name, but they started Ben's Friends. I don't know how many years ago. It's growing very quickly. They're opening chapters all over the country, so it's probably worth looking in to see if there may be an opportunity in Syracuse. But what they do is these guys got tired of losing friends and
Mm-hmm.
employees to
Mm-hmm.
overdose or suicide
Yeah.
related to
Yep. Yep.
related to addiction.
Yep.
And they said, you know what, enough. Like, we can't just sit here and say this sucks. We got to do something. So they started. Ben was their, I guess he was the last straw. Their buddy Ben, he took his life, I believe, and they said
Oh,
that's it.
wow.
So Ben's Friends is opening chapters all over the place, and they're doing an amazing thing. They're providing tools and resources and support for members of the hospitality community that are dealing with addiction, and it's an amazing thing. I'm super thrilled that they're doing that and that
Okay,
it's
cool.
gaining
I'll
a
check
lot of
it out.
momentum. So yeah, check that out because
Okay, that
they've got
sounds
the
good.
they've got the background and the track record of figuring out what people need and how to help them, and they have
Hmm.
leaders in hospitality in these various communities. They're opening these chapters, and
Okay,
it's
cool.
really
That
cool.
sounds good. That
Yeah.
sounds great.
So while people may say, well, it's a restaurant, whatever, this is an
Yeah,
industry that's leading the charge. Quite frankly, I think that restaurants often attract people have that do things to the extreme. So
true.
they work
Right.
hard, play hard, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And
yep,
what's so great about that is it can go in the wrong direction. So, when you had a lot of restaurant leaders that were out doing a lot of drugs and alcohol
yeah,
to deal with how hard it is to run the business, and that may have sort of an addictive personality, well, then the people around them follow that. They see that and they follow that. Well, now a lot of folks are saying, you know what, we're leading the charge into
yeah,
sobriety, and
yeah, yeah,
that's a great thing. And so the restaurant people that may have, been known for that, I believe that this is an industry that's going to be known for doing wonderful, wonderful things in terms of getting people off of addictive substances and promoting a
yeah.
healthy lifestyle.
I've noticed some of our staff in their 30s, some of them are really going into the sobriety and sharing it with other staff members, and it's sort of catching on. And when people realize someone is doing that, um, then I think they think of it as, wait, I'm going to try that too, because after some time, it just doesn't feel good anymore. And when it stops being fun, it's time to push away, I think.
Well, your person that you lost, you say that you lost
Yeah.
somebody, and
Hmm.
know, you wonder if you could have done more. The thing about it is, there's there's nothing you can do until somebody wants to help themselves. But the
Yeah.
more exposure to resources and the more people they see around them, sort of leading the way,
Yeah.
that stuff just tends to gain momentum and sort of snowball. So, while that may not have been a salvageable situation, there's somebody right now out there, or there's somebody that's going to be, a part of your world in a few years that, you know what, the opposite will happen. And,
I hope. Yeah.
oh, for
I hope
sure.
so.
Yeah, it's a
I
great
think
thing.
it's knowing the signs too.
Yeah, that's right.
The things with the pills, I think, why it hides so much is there's not, it's really hard. I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience with that, but I, I don't personally use drugs, and I don't know when people are on them.
Yeah.
So learning how to tell when someone's been abusing prescription drugs, it's a pretty, you can't smell it, you don't see it, you don't know.
Do you look for erratic behavior? Is that a sign, or what are some of the?
Yeah, just like when the mood swings so hard and
Yeah.
unexplained behavior, and then the list of kind of excuses and things, it's just when it all stops making sense, it's usually because there's something else going on.
Well, it really is tough, and it's really unfortunate because it's become so, it's just so easy to get now, and
Yeah, yeah,
it is.
it's
These
hard.
things can
Yeah,
take over. I mean, they can. It's once you get on that, it's extraordinarily hard to get off.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
uh,
yep, yep.
well, uh, what are the other? Do you find more people focusing on mental health now? And I ask that, Johanna, because you've been at this for a while, and back in the '90s and the early 2000s, there wasn't a lot. Mental health was sort of a
Yeah,
stigma, um,
yeah,
and
yeah,
now it's
yeah.
become something where I don't think it is, or at least not nearly as much. It's much
No,
more acceptable to
yeah,
say,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
have a therapist, or I mean, like I'll say it
Yeah,
like I have a I've had
yep,
stuff, I've had issues. I had a down time earlier this year, and it really struggle. And but
yep,
we all every not we all, many people go through that, and we got kind of, life goes through ebbs and flows, and there's times when it gets really challenging. So
yeah,
I think that's
yep.
a good thing that people seem to be a little bit more outspoken about that.
I agree for sure. I think even being in a community of people that we've all gone through things, and when someone spots it in someone else and you kind of just hold that space for them and be a companion or just try to do things to help that person feel a little better to get through. I think that's something also that's great about being in our business. It's like family after so long,
It really is.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
So it's really, that's a special thing, I feel like.
Um, so for a long time you had Alto Cinco for, I mean, like it was
Hmm.
almost what 18 years before you opened Otro. But am I getting my years right that you opened Otro in 13,
13, that's right.
but then
Yep,
you
that's right.
also
And then I
expanded?
expanded Alto in 14.
That
Yeah.
was a
And
pretty
that was
fun
all
couple of
by,
years.
yeah, so um, what had happened was for quite a while, our neighboring spot, which was also a restaurant, um, we were wondering if they had an opportunity to move across the street because of a family owned spot, and we were always wondering if like they were ever gonna pull the trigger and move. And from time to time I would have conversations with the owner, and he kind of go back and forth, and no, I'm not going to leave. And so during some of those years we had great business through the week, and the weekends would be even busier, and we would watch a lot of people leave because we only had 7 tables.
Mm.
So it seemed like we didn't we didn't really have a place for anyone to wait. So when you'd walk into the bar, the 7 tables, there was there was nowhere to go. So we started sending people across the street to a bar, and we would give them a drink chip and tell them when to come back. So that bar kind of became our waiting area.
Oh wow.
And we try to develop these little schemes of how to like keep people around while they were, while we'd be trying to, turn the table, right? So, years and years of this, and then finally it just seemed like as a business, we're not, something's wrong. It's great to be busy, but we're actually, visibly losing a lot of people. And then it started to become this reputation of where you can never get a table at that place.
Mm.
So it started to become like there was a drop off. So at this time, uh, this space that's like 2.5 miles away became known to me. And one final more discussion with my neighbor about possibly moving or taking any of his space, and it was a firm no. So I got together a little plan and thought, you know what, we'll try moving to this little downtown place, and we'll do a similar but slightly different place. We'll keep some of the theme, but it'll be a place where, maybe we'll get lucky and some of our people will go down there. And it wasn't a big undertaking because that too was a very small space. So I personally like small spaces. I like little places. So I just wanted to do something that I could manage myself and personally wait on the tables and just see what would happen. It was kind of like an experiment, very low cost to get into it. Prior, it was a restaurant, so, already had some grandfathered in things, whatever. So it took me probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 months to get that place to the day we opened. Um, Borrowed some money, went all in, did it, and then I think it was a week that I was open, and my landlord posted up and said, I gotta ask you, do you want the space? And I was very confused. I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, they're gonna leave. They're gonna move across the street.
Oh my
And
God.
I was like, oh God, really? And I didn't even think about it. I was like, yeah, of course I want it. He goes, are you sure you can, do this? Because he was waiting for me in the lobby of the new restaurant Otro, and he said, I'm going to make sure, I want you to sleep on it and then tell me tomorrow. And it was it was like just a game changer. I was like, this was, all I wanted, because we needed more space, So I just thought, I was really happy. I remember I sent my dad a text, and I was thrilled, that we could have the space. So I just got to work on it after that, and continued to kind of go between both places. It was a very hectic time in my life, and it was not. It wasn't. It wasn't good for me in certain ways. I had some health problems that kind of happened from that. It just took me a while to kind of rebalance myself. It was just sort of a lot because, sorry, but at the same time, the restaurant Otro Cinco, we were breaking through the wall there too, to a full, huge dining room and bar. So both of these expansions started happening at the exact same time.
God.
Yeah, and not making this up, I got divorced at that time. So
My gosh.
yeah, so it was really, it was, a lot of good things came of it, but I feel like in certain ways, like I kind of paid the price. It was a little bit too much. And I guess sometimes in business, you can't plot and plan everything. It's just sometimes it happens, it falls in your lap, and you got to make a decision. And that was a decision I made, in a minute, but I knew that that was what, so following back now, it's been 6 years, and both restaurants are doing pretty well. There's a lot of things that are going in the right direction, and I am kind of in a mix a lot of trying to figure out my own balance of I I can't seem to find the balance between both places. I'm either like always at one place or always at the other place. So I've kind of embarked back to Alto lately. I'm back there. I spent pretty much the 5 years planted at Otro. But now I try to hop around and, know what's going on, know my staff. And it's just continual to create new things and projects and try to keep people inspired about the restaurants and their jobs, and what we can do better, which I like that part of it. But sometimes it's, for me, it's a lot. I know there's people that can maybe manage, 3 or 4 places. I don't know. I have trouble with 2.
Well, it seems like a lot of people say that the hardest is going from 1 to 2. It's harder to go from 1 to 2 than to go from 2 to 3, and so on. But that's a ton to take on.
Yeah.
That's a lot all at once. It's enough just to open a second location to do that while then also expanding your. That's a lot. So congrats on
Well, thanks.
And
I don't know.
I guess you paid,
Yeah.
like you said, it came with a cost, but now you've got these 2 places, and you've got a great track record in Syracuse, and you'll like you said, you continue to learn every day. Let me ask you this: when you opened the second, I know the first you said you got a loan from your brother, and
Yep.
what about the second? Did you keep it in the family still, or did you have to go to a bank? Or
I went to a bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a loan and I
SBA?
paid it off. No, I just got a regular loan.
Okay.
But I paid it off, and by that time, I had, Alto was in business for, I don't know, 18 years or so. So it was pretty easy to borrow the money. The
Yeah.
risk part doesn't ever. I don't know. This is the way I am, but I don't ever think about the money. It's just like, got to get what I got to get to do what I got to do, and I don't put
Yeah.
it out on paper. I don't analyze it. I'm sure my accountant hates me for this because have made some mistakes. I don't have a lot of, I have zero practical business skills in that way. Everything I do is kind of from the gut and like what I feel. And
Yeah.
it's not always right, but that's kind of how I operate. I don't have any business training, but I've also been lucky to be kind of under the tutelage of a pretty good accounting firm that I work with a great person named Gary, and he's helped me so much. And Terry, for years, just helped me learn more about the practical sides of business and all the things that you really should know probably before you start a business. I kind of went backwards. Maybe a lot of people are like that. Maybe I think in my experience, I just want to say that one of the things that's been the biggest learning curve for me is putting all the systems in place
Yeah.
because now that we have, these two pretty thankfully high volume restaurants, right, that are open 7 days a week. Alto's open from 10 until 2 every day.
Mm.
We close like 2 days a year. So there's zero downtime, right? So you have these like, it's almost like running a hospital.
Yeah.
There's the patients and then there's the business side.
Right.
I'm here to take care of the patients. I don't know the business side. That's sort of how I like to think of it. But then there's a practical side of like, I got to fly the plane or drive the bus, whatever. I got to figure
Right.
that out. And there's a part of the tools and the systems that you have to put in place that I've had great help with. People that think on that end, the practical side, that have helped me so much because it makes everything easier from everybody when there's some kind of common law. So it's one of the things I think is very important about the process of hiring someone and then training them. It's you got to set the expectation, you got to give them the rules, you got to set the boundaries, and the rest you kind of cross your fingers and hope that you'll be able to have a relationship because at the end of every year when I go back through the payroll and try to examine who's going to get a raise and what's my plans for the end of the year is always a really exciting time for me. It's not the greatest time financially, but it's usually when I think about the goals and set just a few things, but I try to set some goals for myself and the businesses. And through some of these systems that I've had a lot of help with, it really makes managing the places a lot better. And just, I can't say this enough, but I have really great, great staff and managers, people that are so good at what they do.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they learn it from or how they do it, but I feel really fortunate to have these people a part of our businesses.
Well, I'm sure they learn a lot from you, and they also, I'm sure they're thankful to be a part of your business, especially when you've got that kind of longevity with a lot of your staff. There's a reason for sure. Let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
when you, so you got the second place going, and you
Yep.
got a bank loan, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the things you said, which I think this is just such a fascinating philosophy, which is you kind of just you listen to your gut and then you go figure it out. Do you think about that a lot, Jen? Do you think about manifesting a vision that if you have something you want to achieve and that you believe that you're going to achieve, the world will sort of conspire to help you get there?
Yeah, I think it's probably like a lot of people that do creative things that it's sort of like it just has to come out of you and it's it's maybe like a song to sing or a picture to paint.
Hmm.
There's a degree of practicalness that you might need the tools and so forth to do it, but when it's in you, for me, that's how this has all happened. It's
Yeah.
like it's kind of in there and it has to come out, and I just scrap away like whatever I gotta, figure it out, get this, do that, and I just do that without hesitation until the end, until it's open. And I feel like uh, I enjoy that process a lot. Running it
Mm-hmm.
is the harder side. That's all about the relationships, your purveyors, your staff, your customers. It's building and preserving and trying to continue to give and to keep hope that you're going to do something so right that they're going to want to come back again. And I don't take that for granted, or I don't take that lightly. So
Sure.
I think when I did the second space, it was 5 tables, and it was kind of takeout, and some of the tables it was easy, and it was in a location that seemed to offer some growing population of Syracuse was starting to move downtown again. So that was it's been cool to be around that, to watch how all these different groups of people are moving into a city that was kind of a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit sleepy for a while. That part of Syracuse.
Yeah.
So it's been kind of cool. A lot of renovations and cool apartments going on.
It's happening in a lot of towns.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
I feel
that have been
great.
around for
It's
a while.
been really cool to be a part of that.
Tell me about one of the things that's been on my mind, our minds here at Schedule Fly lately is the benefits. Like I hear a lot of people when I do these podcasts, a lot of owners, they're talking about, how do I provide health care to my staff? What are the things I can do?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can give your staff opportunities to grow within your organization, but a lot of times now just some of these ancillary benefits are so meaningful, and you're starting to see more of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell me about your experience with that.
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that too. Probably in 2003, I got pretty serious about trying to be a better employer. So I started offering 401k and matching it, and then we got into offering health insurance probably in 2005.
Really? So you were way ahead of this.
Yeah, I think it really appealed to me that I wanted to make restaurant jobs legitimate, and I didn't want people, um, especially like parents, to think like their kids were falling out by working in restaurants. I wanted it to be more like, uh, I've been lucky enough to go to Europe a handful of times in my life, and I feel like the service industry there is like very professional and respected. And it's
Yes.
not some kind of like fly by night dropout job. It's like, wow, this is what you've chosen as a career, and gladly so. So I feel like I had much less staff to do this for, but um, it was a pretty easy decision to make, and we kind of, a bunch of us just kind of got educated on, I put a plan in place, and then I helped my staff understand what it was about and why it was a good idea. And a lot of it was like I was proud to be an employer.
Yeah.
And I wanted people to feel like they could rely on me and feel like they had a safe place. And that healthcare just seems so wrong to me. It's just like a mess. But we had a plan for a while, and then I paid for part of it. I didn't pay for all of it. And then through the years, things changed a bit, and some plans that were once affordable and good in New York State became uh, ineligible for me as an employer to offer because of the number of staff that we have. So last year, I kind of got more involved and put a plan in place that I thought was more affordable for everyone, but it cost a tremendous amount of money. And so, as the employer, I pay 50% of it. And that's reasonable for people that work full time to be able to afford it. So, I'm continually working on trying to find a better plan because it's, at a glance, it's something like around $4,000 a person. So I pay two. So I feel like it's, you know, it's something.
Yeah,
Um, but
absolutely.
yeah, those prices just keep going
They keep
up,
going
and
up. It just gets harder and
yeah,
harder. It's y'all don't
yeah.
have any
So
you don't have any negotiating power. That's one of the things that
right,
you
that's
know what I
part of the
mean?
problem.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
a
that's
small business.
yeah,
It really sucks. I mean,
yeah,
we're in the same boat. It's like if
yeah.
all these big companies get all these purchasing power benefits, and I feel like there's more on this. I want to tell you some things we're thinking about, but go ahead. I interrupted
No,
you.
that's probably. I want to get to a place where we can have a plan that's affordable for someone that, is making minimum wage, and they don't have to make a decision if they can pay their rent or have health insurance. That's what I feel bad about. And for whatever it costs me, I think between both restaurants, it's just a little under, maybe like, I think maybe cost me around $75,000-$80,000 a year. And when I look at that as a number, it's like at first I thought, how will I afford this? But then when I think about what it does for the people and that they need it, it's not, people have things that happen and they need to have a benefit. And um, I just want that to get more affordable, not just for me, but for everyone that's paying into it.
Yeah, 100%. I totally
Yeah.
agree. What about and you also have 401k. Do you find? I mean, is that
Mhm.
something that who provides that for you? By the way.
So I have my payroll done through Paychex,
Uh huh.
and I broker through a rep that they use, and
Okay.
it's Wells Fargo, I think, is who does it. But the woman that helps us with it, she's great. She's helped so many of our staff sign up and understand the process. Back in the day, I would hold these little meetings
Yeah.
at some like off hour in the bar and try to convince people why they should save money. Like, hey, $20 meets $20. Now you got 40. It's the best return on your money. You guys got to do it. And some people looked at it. It was too personal. It was like my boss is asking me to give money. Like, this doesn't make sense. And then over the years, some of the people that did it, a couple years go by, and then you're like, oh my god, I have like $5,000 saved, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you could buy a house, you
Yeah.
know. So every time, it's kind of funny, but it's something I feel awesome about. Is I've watched so many of these people grow into buying homes for themselves, and it's like I just feel so happy that the restaurant has afforded that for people.
It's freaking awesome.
That makes me really happy.
I bet it does. It's fantastic.
Because being a homeowner, when you're in your 20s or early
Yeah.
30s, it's a game changer.
Yeah, it totally is.
You
No,
don't
it's
have to move anymore. You can't
yeah.
get kicked out. It's awesome.
Well, you're helping people create a lot of stability in their lives with a job they can count on, 401k and health, all these benefits. It creates a lot of stability, which people want, and that helps in turn create loyalty to you. And it also creates people that have less stress in their lives, which means what? It means that when they
Right.
take care of their guests, they're
Exactly.
not worried about like how
Exactly.
the hell am I going to pay for my health
Yeah.
insurance or damn it, I can't buy a house yet. And,
Yep.
this
Yep.
sucks, and I'm pissed about this. So the more things you do, it's got the byproducts, wind up trickling down to better experiences for the guests. Um, well, okay, so we're trying to figure out something right now,
Hmm.
because we have we have 7,000. Hold on a second, I think my mic is giving me a little hard time. Tight. There we go.
Yeah.
We have there it is. We have 7,000 restaurants, over 7,000. And hold on a second. I may have to edit this part out because something's going on with my mic. Do you hear it cutting in and out?
No.
No, you don't. Okay, so only I am. And we've got 300,000 end users. And we just recently went, wait a minute. Why can't we enable our customers to have purchase power? Yes, like, why can't we go out and feed? Now, the initial idea was that it was healthcare, because I spoke to an owner a couple of weeks ago. He's like, man, I just can't afford it. Like, it's so expensive, and I'm struggling, and I hope to be able to do it. We're opening our third place, and I hope that we're able to do it. But I went, well, why couldn't we help? Like, what could we do? And then I realized very quickly, or we realized, it was like, okay, well, healthcare, if that's the nut you want to try to crack first, could take 5 years. You know, there's all this regulatory stuff and red tape and bureaucracy and different issues in each state. So, but having said that, we're on the case now. But then that led to this thought: what else could we do? Like, what else could we negotiate for our customers? Because we have this engaged audience of people that they're literally, particularly the staff, like they're on the mobile site, 5 times a day. Like, they're always on there. Yeah. We don't have to email people, and so we can literally just say, hey, did you know that you could get, this good benefit because you're a part of Schedulefly? And maybe that's, one customer said, I said, what if there was a Schedulefly credit card, that you could have that would enable you to consolidate some debt, at a good rate or something like that? Or what if there was a way that you could refinance your student loan debt at a better rate? Or what if there was a and then he said ideas. Yeah, and he's like, hey, Will, this was just last week. I haven't even put the podcast episode yet, but it was a guy up in Raleigh, and he's like, well, hey, how about this? A lot of my staff doesn't even have credit, and I try to get them to go out, and I'm like, hey, just get a credit card with like a $250 limit and start buying things on it, paying it off every month, so you can establish a credit history. Because, of course, going into buying a house, the better credit you have. So what if we found a way to get them a, hey, you can get a Schedulefly sponsored credit card for, with a $500 monthly limit, or $500 limit, and, and things like that would be meaningful. I don't know, like, y'all wear shoes, you need a lot of shoes because you're on your feet all the dang time. Like, well, what if Zappos gave a good deal on shoes? Anyway.
We use that Shoes for Cruise. I wonder if you...
Oh, what is that?
If you reference them, you could probably get some discount that then all the restaurant staffs could get.
Shoes for Cruise?
Yeah, check it out. It's safety shoes in... 1,001 different styles.
Done. There you go. That's exactly what we want to do, because I just feel like if we go to the right... Now we have to... Oh, my
God, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I think if we can vet these brands and curate a list and know that they will... Unite. Yes. Like, these companies, we believe in what they're doing, and they're offering you this deal, and here you go, and there's nothing else you need to do. But
power. You have the power with all your members.
Yeah, I feel like we could do something there. We really, it's
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're more into that. Like, that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like we could keep adding software and features and but that's we don't really believe in that, because again, we're trying to, like, our goal with Schedulefly really is it should do its job, be reliable, and get out of the way so you can focus on taking care of the business and the guests. So we don't want to keep getting people bought in. Now, most software companies, they want to keep adding and tying these things together so they get people locked into these long-term contracts and all this stuff that's all pulled together and it's hard to get out. That's not our objective. Our objective is to provide a simple tool that gets out of the way, and then we would much rather go work on something like Schedulefly benefits than adding a bunch of
that makes sense.
software. So anyway, that's kind of what we're hot on that right now. We just starting the process, and in fact, we're going to put out a survey, I think, here soon that you'll see on there that just asks people, like, are you an owner or an employee? And rank these. Do you have health insurance or not at work? And then outside of that, rank these benefits that you would like to see. Now, I don't know if we can do this or not, but we're sure as hell going to try.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And get that data.
Yeah, for sure. That's right.
Yeah.
So,
well, Schedule 5 for me has helped so much because of having, just the 2 locations, and at a glance, I can see, first thing in the morning, I can see the schedule in a minute, and then the messaging, I feel like the ability to capture all those people in a text in 2 seconds is such a game changer. I can't even tell you. Like, bow down. Is that has simplified so many steps between both businesses and management that it's just been it's helped us so much.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. That's
like
awesome.
Meetings and reminders and quick attention to certain things that come up. Like just the other week, there was an issue in the parking lot where a lot of my staff parked, and we needed to give everyone the heads up that for a few days they couldn't park there. And at first I thought, oh my God, how am I going to get that? How am I going to get people to, I'm going to put up these memos. And then in a second, I was like, oh no, I'll just put it on the wall. And boom. It's great.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, thank you for saying that. We that kind of stuff really makes our day.
Well, I mean it. I really mean it, because the ability to do it, and it's so easy, and it's never not worked.
Well, there you go. That's
like never.
Yeah, it was funny. One of the best compliments, you basically just replicated it. We say one of the best compliments we ever had was an owner who said, it's the one thing we use that we never have problems with. We were like, that's
true. I have problems with bank websites. I have problems, like that one thing, it's never not worked. And we've been on it for a while.
You've been on it a long time, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I've taken a bunch of your time, and I don't want to keep any longer.
Well, thanks. Thanks for talking, though.
Thanks for doing. Do you listen to podcasts, by the way?
Yes, I have listened to them.
I mean, like any other
Ever
ones?
since. Oh, yeah, I listened to The Moth, the stories on the Moth.
Oh, I've heard those are good.
Yeah, those are really good.
Yeah. I always like people. I listen to tons of podcasts. So I'm always curious. I get ideas from other people, what they listen to.
Yeah, because you're on the road a lot too, right?
Decent amount, yeah. And then I'm like one of these people that, like, I get up really early in the morning and take my dogs for a walk, and I'll just throw my headphones on and listen to a podcast while I'm walking or something like that.
Cool.
I'm like, I kind of have this ridiculously insatiable curiosity about lots of things. So
it's awesome.
I'm always trying to learn, like probably to a fault. But But yeah, there's another restaurant podcast. I always like to mention this when I remember. It's called Restaurant Unstoppable.
And
it's a young man named Eric Cacciatore, and he this guy's awesome. Like it is his business. Like this is something that we do as an investment for our business, but Restaurant Unstoppable is his business, and he literally drives around the country and he interviews restaurant owners, and he documents it all, and he's built a whole business on this thing. He used to live in his car, and now I think he's like a lot of times he'll get comped on hotels and stuff. And really, but I admire his drive and his energy and his hard work and grit, like all those qualities that, most business starters really go, yeah, I love seeing that. Every time somebody does stuff like that, you go,
cool.
I'm with you. So anyway, check that one out. Restaurant.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
What's your dog's name?
Louie.
Lily?
Louie.
Oh, Louie. Louie the lab. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is Louie a black lab?
Yep.
Oh, boy, those labs are
What
good
are your dogs?
We have a Springer Spaniel named Katie, and also known as Old Sweetie. And then we have this little mutt named Elvis. He's also known as the Stinker. And they're both adopted. So Katie, we know a lot about her, but we know her whole background. She's a wonderful dog and really sweet. And Elvis, we don't know much about him. We love him. But I didn't want to have anything to do with getting him, and my wife and kids kept wanting to get another dog. I was like, no, we got our hand. No. And
Yeah.
And we got him. I was like, man, this dog, and he's barks every time, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Now he's like my little buddy, and he rides around with me
Oh,
everywhere.
cool.
Yeah, he's like my little
Oh,
co-pilot.
cool.
So,
Cool.
yeah, it's fun. Well, hey, listen, Johanna, I really appreciate this a
Okay.
ton, and
Thanks. Well,
yeah, thank you. And if you, by the way, if you ever listen to anybody, and you're like, hey, that person, that owner just said something that maybe I'm working on and I haven't figured out, or the reverse, like I hear that person's working on something and I did, like whatever, 401k or health. Let me know. I'm happy. I always connect people. We like to do
okay,
that.
cool.
So we've done that a
Okay.
few times, and it's a neat way sometimes. So always happy to do that, if you
All
ever.
right, cool.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. All right, y'all. That's a wrap.
Okay.
Thanks for listening. More coming soon. See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.